All right, I'm super excited to have my friend Minister Slugger on the Hackers channel.
Keep the main thing.
I've known Slugger for pretty much all my life. We became good friends in the last, say 20 years. I was a little bit older than him growing up, but I do know him from where I'm from, and I'm really happy to have you on here. And it's such a cool thing to see you being so involved in the community, so active and helping out so many people. So today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about mental wellness. And this is something in technology where people get burnt out all the time, and they talk about burnout and they talk about all this stuff. So I thought it would be good for my technology audience to see what you're talking about, because I know you helped me out personally. So I wanna introduce yourself and let's get into this conversation, brother.
Hey, what's up, man? First of all, thank you for having me on the Hackish channel. It's a pleasure and an honor, my brother. I go by the name of Minister Slugger. My real name is George Strickland. I am a motivational speaker. I'm an author, and I'm a mental wellness advocate.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. So, man, let's get down to business here. You got a new book out, and I see on social media you promoting the book. I see tons of people with the book.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
about this. So, what's the name of the book, and tell us what it's about?
So the name of the book is called How to Invest in Your Mental Wellness. So we hear all the time, take care of your mental health, but how do we actually do that? And so I thought of a way to come up with a simplified way for people to invest in their mental wellness. When you go on YouTube, there are 1,001 or 1,000,001 videos, if you will, on how to invest in your 401k, how to invest in real estate market, and the list goes on and on and on. But nothing, that's really out there that explains to us how do we invest in the single most important thing in our lives, and that's our mental wellness. And the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is the return on investment, the ROI that you get when you invest in your mental wellness. Because it does no good for me to invest in the stock market. It does no good for me to invest in the real estate market if my mind isn't well. And so when the mind is well, your life is well. And so that's why I titled the book, How to Invest in Your Mental Wellness, because when your mind is well, your life is well. And you can make better decisions when your mental health is up to par where it needs to be.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And so in technology industry, just like any other industry, there's a lot of people are stressed. Definitely in cybersecurity. In cybersecurity, people are monitoring networks and trying to protect, their company. And sometimes you're trying to protect these big brands.
Mhm.
And the hackers are definitely out here in these streets
Right.
trying to get in. And so a thing that we hear all the time is talking about burnout and people being, burnt out from
Right.
living this high stressful life. And I think life in general is stressful. And
Right.
so tell us a little bit about how you came to write this book, right? I know you
Mhm.
just said that people don't invest enough into it, but like you have like a story behind why did you think that in business we always say like why you, like why
Right.
did you write this book?
Right. So, from a personal standpoint, I wrote this book because depression was something that I had been dealing with since I was in high school, with suicide attempts, just being stressed out. And here it is, I'm a sophomore in high school when I'm supposed to be enjoying life, being a teenager, but I'm overwhelmed. And so I went and saw a psychiatrist, spent about a week or so in a place called DePaul Mental Health Center there in Waco, Texas. And it was just, pulling from my background of what it was like when I was dealing with depression as a teenager. And then in 2020, I lost my mother and went through a series of challenges during that year, as everybody did when we were dealing with COVID. And I think 2020 was a stressful year for everybody. But it was in 2020 that I made the decision to go and connect with a therapist. Me being a minister, that's something that's taboo in a spiritual community. So I decided to step outside of the box and go and speak with a therapist. And it was one of the best things that I could have done. And so just with my own personal bout of mental health and the actions that I took to make sure that my mental health was up to par, and seeing the results that it made for me, it just made me want to be even more of an advocate for other people to say, your mental health is worth investing in. Because there's also this stigma around going to see a psychiatrist or going to see a therapist. We call it going to go see a shrink. And my motto is this: I'd rather go and see a shrink before I allow myself to shrink. Because life will shrink you if you don't have the tools to handle the different challenges and things that come our way. And so for me, man, I just, from a personal place of experience, my thing is, man, making sure, that people are in a good place mentally, and then showing them the steps to take to, in their everyday life, things that they can incorporate in their life to make sure that their mental wellness stays up to par.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm glad that, I'm always impressed that, like, I get the pleasure of talking to you a lot. I mean,
Right.
part of the reasons why we're doing this episode is because, like, man, I wish we could record some of the stuff that we talk about. Because even my wife, she says, man, you guys have such good conversations. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be another good one. So
yeah, if I can, let me interject. Another reason why I wrote the book was because it was from talking with you.
Yeah,
it was like, hey man, because I remember when I came to you with the idea, and I just wanted to write like a pamphlet on mental wellness, just something short and quick. And you were like, hey man, I think you should do it better than that. You can take it a bit further. You have a personal story with mental health, and I think you should give people your background and give them some more information about yourself to go along with the information that you are putting out there, to establish credibility. And so from that conversation, man, I mean, this book took on a totally different life, man. So I want to say thanks to you and your wife, Mandy, for encouraging me to take it to the next level.
Hey man, it's always a pleasure when I can help out. So real quick, so can you go over, because you talk to a lot of people about this, and you go into the workplace a lot too.
Right.
Can you talk about a little bit about dealing with workplace stress and how that makes, how that works, and how that messes up, any organization? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because some of the people seeing this are working in an organization. Some of these people may be in college. There's a whole lot of different people, but like, how do you deal with that day-to-day stress in any organization, wherever that may be? It could be a church even, but mostly, my audience is tech people trying to get in the tech game.
Right. So I was working around educators, and I was contracting with school districts doing their media, whether it was their websites, creating video content. But I always found myself in the background, having one-on-one session with teachers or administrators because they were just burnt out and they needed someone to talk to. And so when I left the media business and I stepped into the speaking business and becoming a mental wellness advocate, that was my motivation, because I saw that there were so many people within the workplace who just needed an outlet or who needed a way to cope. And then also, I saw it on many different levels. I saw how organizations could deteriorate when the mental health of the leader of the organization, when their mental health wasn't in a good place, because it just created a toxic work environment. And then you had the employees who didn't want to show up to work. And then their performance took a nosedive because now you have someone that's micromanaging them and who's constantly breathing down their back, all because their mental wellness is suffering. And so, but then also from an employee standpoint, They may be having problems at home or just dealing with the day-to-day issues of life, and then their performance takes a nosedive. And oftentimes I've seen where more professional development was offered and other solutions, but nothing to address the thing that was really happening, and that was, I'm burned out. Because you can take the best employee in the organization. If their mental wellness is suffering, their performance is gonna suffer. It's not that they're not smart, it's not that they don't have the tools, it's just that they need a way to refocus and reset their mindset. And so that's where I come in at. You know, I come in and I help teams to reignite their purpose, to get their spark back and find their why. Because oftentimes what happens is when you become burnout, you lose sight of your purpose. And when you lose sight of your purpose, that fire goes out. And sometimes you just need someone to come in with a spark to reignite that fire.
Yeah, I dig that. And so before I forget, one of the things I want to ask you, and I want to make sure we cover this early so we get out the way. Some people will say, hey man, I can't find a therapist, man. Like, can you give them, I know there's a resource that you give people that can find a therapist.
Right. So there's a resource that I like to use. It's called Psychology Today. On this website, it's super user-friendly. You can find a therapist in your area. You can filter it down to your budget, to ethnicity, to gender, religious background, and the list just goes on and on and on. And so that's how I found my therapist when I was looking for a therapist on this website called Psychology Today. And so that was my issue. I was like, you know, I didn't even know where to begin to look. And so once I came across this website and I saw how user-friendly it was, and then you can either, they have therapists on there that accept insurance, or if you don't have insurance, you're paying out of pocket. I mean, you can even filter it down to that. So Psychology Today is the website to where you can find a therapist in your area according to your budget and according to your specifications of what you're looking for in a therapist.
Yeah, I like that. So I want to, first of all, I'm going to, if there's one, and I want them to get, I want people to check out the book, of course. And
Right.
we'll put a link to the book in the description of the video. We'll put a link there for sure.
All right.
So what do you think? Like, I mean, a lot of people got the book now. What's the feedback on the book, and what do people find really helpful in the book?
Right. Yeah. So the feedback that I have gotten from the book was, man, you know, this book has really helped me out. You know, there were some things, you know, that I didn't know. So for instance, like, we don't realize how the overconsumption of social media can take an effect on our mental health. Too much social media. And so just taking a break from social media sometimes can reset your mind and give you a renewed sense of energy, because being on there too much, it can just drain your energy. And especially if you are consuming negative social media feeds all the time. And it's the same thing with news consumption. Overload of news consumption. Every time you turn on the news, there's something negative. There's something going on in the world. And I'm not saying don't be informed, but what I am saying is don't be consumed. There's another thing to be concerned, but then another thing to be consumed. And so just the feedback that I have been getting is, you know, this is something that, you know, I wake up every day and I read, or I use this book to help me get my day started, to help me start me on my way.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Because I always think, and one of the analogies I think about is like, you know, you've talked to me about this before. We've talked about this. Like, whatever your mind is focused on, you get more of. And even
Right.
in the regular world. So for instance, if I get a car, every car I see on the road is going to be my car.
Right.
And so it's the frequency that you're tuned into. And like, you know, it's crazy how that works. And that's funny how social media works. So sometimes people on social media, yeah, when you watch a couple of negative feeds, you're going to get a bunch of negative feeds, right? So
That's what the algorithm is gonna. Yeah, that's what the algorithm is gonna feed you, and it's the same way it is in life. You know, what you tend to focus on is what you tend to attract, because life has an algorithm as well, whether we know it or not. And so And I don't want to go too spiritual, but one of the biblical scriptures that I like to use is this right here, is that the power of life and death is in our tongue. So that means that if I'm speaking negative all the time, then I'm going to reap that seed eventually. So we have to change what we speak, but then we also have to change what we're digesting on the daily, because I can't digest negativity and then produce positivity. It just doesn't work that way.
Interesting. And so say if somebody's watching this right now and they're exactly what we're talking about, their whole social media is negative, and there's definitely a lot of negative stuff going on, as you said, in the world. Maybe they have a negative person in their life. Like, what do you to change up that algorithm? What's some of your tips?
So one of the things that I talk about in the book is setting healthy boundaries. If you're going to be serious about your mental wellness, you have to learn how to set those healthy boundaries, because again, what you feed on is what will manifest in your life. But then also too, again, it's just like a car battery. If you leave the car on, then eventually the battery is going to be drained, because there is energy just pulling at that battery. So it's the same way it is with our social media feed. It's the same way it is with the people who are in our lives. If we have people that we're hanging around and news that we're constantly digesting or ingesting that's negative, it pulls on our battery. And when it pulls on our battery, no wonder you're tired. No wonder you're burned out. And so you just have to set those disciplines to be like, okay, I'm going to make my mental wellness a priority. And I realize that these things are pulling on my life or draining the battery in my life. And so I got to cut it off.
Yeah, I love that. I love your analogies, man. You always come up with these really good analogies. I love the whole stock investment, return on investment. I love that whole, your analogies be so on point, brother. I really appreciate that. So that's a great takeaway. That's great advice. So setting the boundaries, and I want people to get the book, but can you give us one more gem from Minister Slugger? What's another gem off the top of your head?
Just off the top of my head, man, the other thing, that would be to combat stress and burnout is something as simple as going to bed at a decent time. But then also incorporating a 30-minute walk into your daily routine. And if you can't do it daily, then at least 3 times out of the week. These were things that I started doing that I noticed that once I started doing them consistently, when I was burnt out, and being overwhelmed, that was part of it. And so when I set a routine to where I was going to bed early, I would wake up refreshed and revitalized. But then also in the evening, when I started incorporating a 30-minute walk into my day, that was my way to release stress. A lot of people don't know it. You don't have to take a jog or anything like that. Just a simple walk will relieve so much stress. And when I'm out there and I'm walking on that pavement, hey, it's just me, the nature. I'm airing out my thoughts, and by the time I'm done, I feel so much better, because it is such a stress reliever. So, and then how you start your morning, pray and meditate. That's how I start my day, because when you start your day off on that note, when you start your day off right, chances are it's gonna end right. And so those are just a few little tips that people can do that doesn't cost you any money. A lot of people think that, well, I don't have the money to take a vacation. I need to take a vacation, but I can't. I need to go to a different location. And sometimes it's not about the location physically as much as it is about the location mentally. Because if I go take a vacation, and let's say I go to Miami or the most beautiful destination, but my mind is still in a burned out mental state, then I can be in a new location and still be stressed out and burned out, because mentally I haven't made that shift. So sometimes a vacation, a physical vacation, is nice, But what I try to tell people is, or give people tips on, is cost-effective ways that you can reduce stress and burnout without spending any money. And those are just a few ways to be able to do that.
Hey man, I appreciate that, because definitely in technology we end up being at the keyboard a lot, and typing and
Right.
not being physically active. And so if you're sitting at the keyboard, this is a compounding thing. You're sitting at the keyboard today, you're getting all this negative stuff, and then you're not getting away from the keyboard. It could definitely and I guess that, like, sometimes what I do is it's easy to be, even when you're walking, sometimes to be still consuming negative stuff. So
Mhm.
basically have those boundaries, perhaps, like you're walking, no social media or
Right.
something like that, right?
Right. And sometimes, even it doesn't even have to be negative stuff that you're consuming on social media. It can be, the saying goes that too much of a good thing is still a bad thing. And so even if we aren't paying attention to the negative stuff that's on social media, if we don't set boundaries and discipline times away from our phones, we can still become overwhelmed, because the things that we're supposed to be using are now using us. And we don't realize how technology, how much it drains us. And we wonder why we're tired. We wonder why we're groggy. We wonder why we're irritable. But just stepping away, just doing that one little simple thing, putting down that device for
Yeah,
30 minutes. And
right.
what I had to do was, I had to do it in intervals, because I didn't realize how addicted I was to my device until I started setting up, those boundaries. And man, I couldn't even really, go 20. It was hard to go 20 minutes or 30 minutes without looking at my phone. But once I started doing it, the more easier it became. And every now and then, I have to make sure that I go back to that discipline of setting no phone time. Because when my mind gets overwhelmed, I have to shut it down. And sometimes that means shutting down phone calls from certain people.
Yeah, that's interesting. From a science perspective, I'm a nerd, so you mentioned going to sleep earlier and stuff.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know if you heard about this, but there's research that says the light from your phone, when it hits your eyes late at night, it keeps you up. And that blows my mind that the phone is changing humans in general. Like, it's keeping us up later just by you looking at your phone in the middle of the night, or like you're chilling, vegging out, about to go to sleep, but your phone, actually the light inside
Right.
going into your eyes, makes you stay up longer.
Absolutely. Because oftentimes what happens is this: our body shuts down, but our mind doesn't shut down. And I know that you're a nerd, science guy, computer guys. So imagine a computer where the hard drive never shuts down.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's what's happening with many of us. Speaking personally, there were many nights to where my body was shut down, but my mind wasn't. And so when I get ready to start my morning on my day, I'm still tired, and I'm like, man, what's going on? I went to bed, but I'm still tired. Like, before I was going to bed, I'm scrolling. And I noticed once I stopped doing that, and don't get me wrong, there are times when I slip back into that habit, and I have to, reassess and be like, okay, you know what you need to do. But if I scroll before I go to bed, I notice, that my body was shut down, but my mind is still running. And especially if you're an overthinker. I'm an overthinker. And so overthinking is another way, man, that causes stress and burnout, because you can be overthinking. Let's just say maybe you are not that person who scrolls all the time, or you're that person who goes to bed early. You don't scroll on social media before you go to bed, but you're laying in that bed and you're overthinking something that happened at work, or you overthinking something that happened earlier in the day. That can keep you tired and mentally burn out as well. And so one of the things that I talk about in the book as well is, how do we overcome that overthinking cycle?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, when we overthink, it's like a computer that has this hard drive that constantly runs, and it never shuts down. And when that happens, eventually you crash.
I love it. I love it. I tell you what, man. I want you to tell people where they can get information about you and just what's your social media and all that.
All right. So my social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube, is at Minister Slugger. That's MINISTERSLUGGER. Or you can go to my website at ministerslugger.com. And of course, you can go and get the book, How to Invest in Your Mental Wellness, on Amazon. Or you can get it off my website.
All right. I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for always, spreading, such love, such positive vibes. And I'm happy that you got your stress and mental wellness under control so you can be a blessing to the rest of us out here in these streets.
Hey, brother, it's a daily route. It's not something that you necessarily master. It's something that you have to practice and put into a routine daily, because there are some days I'm successful at it, and there are a bunch of days that I'm not successful at it. But I've been there. I got the T-shirt, and so now I'm just trying to get aware of the nuggets that I've learned from it.
I want you to share what was it. I mean, I think I talked to you the other day, and you mentioned that since you've written this book, you actually use the book as a resource yourself in your day-to-day life. That is so awesome. It's such what we call in the tech world, we call it a meta event, where it's like it's so meta that you had this stuff in your mind, put it in the book, now you're consuming it. It's like a nice little cycle. Tell us about that a little bit before we go.
Yeah, so one of the things that I believe is this. If a person that says that they're a chef or a good cook and you never see them eat their own food, then something's wrong with that. And so I actually eat my own food. And so I start my mornings off through prayer and meditation, and then I grab this book and I take some nuggets out of the book to help me start my day. Because what it does for me is it keeps me grounded, it keeps me centered to make sure that I'm practicing the things that I'm telling other people to do. Because one of the things that I don't want to be is a hypocrite. And it helps keep me aligned, but it also helps keep my mind balanced so that I don't slip back into the things that I'm telling other people, hey, not to do, that's gonna deteriorate your mental wellness. And so, although I wrote the book, it's something that I'm still growing into myself. When I was younger and my mom used to take me school shopping, she would always get my shoes like a size up or a half a size up, because she wanted me to grow into the shoe so that I wouldn't outgrow it too soon. And so this book for me, man, is something that I'm growing into, and so it's just that daily reminder as I'm feeding myself from what I cooked up myself of, just to stay grounded, to stay balanced. And I just want to make sure, that I'm eating the food that I'm giving to other people.
That makes sense, man. They say a good chef always a little sample.
Yes, sir.
That's good, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you, man. I want to have you back on here. I want you to be a regular guest. I want people to be able to access you and you've been a serious blessing to me, brother, and I appreciate you, man.
Hey, you've been a serious blessing to me as well, man. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
All right, man. Salute.
I'm looking in the mirror, what do I see? I see the only person alive that could stop me. I'ma push it to the limit with it, everything I got. I'm a rocket ship in motion, I'm headed to the top.